Hello and welcome to our Estates Professional Spotlight and Q&A series. My name is Nordis Forcade-Martin. I am the founder and CEO of Florida Probate Partners, a real estate team that specializes in working with probate attorneys, professional guardians, and trust officers in helping them sell the real estate assets involved in their cases. During this series, we delve into the intricacies of probate and estate planning, and we do this with the goal of educating our community by showcasing the professionals who are problem solvers in this arena. As serious as this topic is, we like to bring light to these conversations, so do expect to have some fun. Welcome to our show. All right, so today we have the pleasure of having our attorney friend, colleague, Nicole Soto Ortega join us. Nicole, please tell our audience a little bit about who you are.
Well, I am a Miami native. I am Cuban and Puerto Rican. I have lived, like I said, in Miami my whole life. I always felt like I was going to be an attorney. And I mean, I like to consider myself a very approachable, down to earth, and humble attorney. And I don't like the stuffy demeanor of, the legal profession and the bad rap that it can sometimes get. But, I try to make sure that my clients feel like I am not just their attorney, but their kind of confidant, friend, and ally in this whole process that can be more often than not a difficult and pretty sad process sometimes.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us, Nicole, what is estate planning and why do you think it is essential for individuals and families, regardless of their age or their net worth, to do estate planning?
So estate planning basically it's the process of preparing documents that will essentially provide the wheelhouse for how we're going to manage and distribute a person's assets when either they pass away or if they unfortunately get incapacitated at some point or another. And a lot of times, and this is something that I like to make sure potential clients and anyone that I really speak to on this topic aware of, is that a lot of people think that either their age, their net worth, and their family makeup ultimately are the factors that are going to determine whether or not they need an estate plan. But in actuality, those factors are what we as estate planning attorneys take into account and consider when evaluating and trying to determine what assets and what documents really are going to meet that person's needs more often than not. So yeah, I mean, essentially those three components in and of itself, they help us figure out what best fits that person's particular circumstance. And if anything, the younger you are, the sooner you should start. And your net worth, you don't need to be in excess of 1 million in net worth to have an estate plan. An estate plan is a very generalized topic. So those factors in and of itself should not hold anyone back from wanting to get advice or an estate plan prepared.
Got it. Yeah, it's a common misconception that people think, well, I have to have a certain amount of net worth in order to invest the time and money to be able to plan for my whenever I'm not here. So, Nicole, what are some of the key components that you recommend or that you've seen are important to have in a comprehensive estate plan?
So typically, there is no one size fits all for an estate plan. A lot of people think that when I say estate plan, I mean, every single document under the sun. But like I said, an estate plan is tailored and based on every person, based on their assets, based on what their wishes and desires are. So one estate plan can contain one or two documents versus another one that could have, 5 or 6 documents prepared for a full estate plan. So typically the most common documents that you're going to see in an estate plan are the trust, whether revocable or irrevocable, the last will and testament, the living will, the healthcare surrogate, the pre-need guardian designation, a durable power of attorney. And in some instances, some clients only need a ladybird deed or a quitclaim deed. So an array of those documents is basically what can essentially comprise a person's estate plan. Now, if you wanted to break that up into financial versus medical, then you would essentially, I guess, generalize and categorize each of these documents under one of those. So, for example, the trust, the last will and testament, the durable power of attorney, the ladybird deed, and the quitclaim deed would fall under the financial category or the asset category. And then the living will, the healthcare surrogate, and the pre-need guardian designation would fall under the medical side and component for an estate plan. So again, depending on what a client is looking to achieve with their estate plan, you kind of essentially start to narrow down what documents best fit what they're looking for.
Got it. So it could be as comprehensive as having all of those documents you mentioned, or as simple as having a quitclaim deed or a ladybird deed or some sort of specific for a specific purpose. It doesn't
Yep.
have to be. Got it.
Exactly.
Got it. So tell me more about the misconceptions that typically people have when it comes to the estate planning, and what can those misconceptions, how can they impact their future?
So again, I think, and I'll probably touch on probably three common misconceptions that I think I experience or come across my desk more often than not. I think the first one is that a lot of people think that having a last will and testament, their problems are solved and they avoid probate. But this could not be further from the truth. And to be completely frank, my own family has been guilty of relying wholeheartedly on the last will and testament, because a lot of people don't understand that the last will and testament is a document that is intended to go to probate. It is meant to be probated. It's not a document that avoids it. So think of the last will and testament as kind of your directions or your instruction manual, for kind of like assembling that furniture you buy online. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically what the last will and testament is. And it only provides for what your wishes are and what your desires are as to who should receive what. But it doesn't have that legal effect of transferring the asset or having that automatic succession from, the decedent, the person who passed away, to the intended beneficiary. So having a last will and testament is great, but it doesn't solve your problems and it doesn't avoid probate. And a lot of people fall under this, misconception that they've got their bases covered and they don't. Another one that I think a lot of people erroneously rely on is that everyone needs a trust. And that is not always the case. A trust is a phenomenal estate planning tool. I do recommend it more often than not. I think a lot of people do benefit from a trust, but there are some clients that truly don't need a trust. They're relying on friends, neighbors, colleagues, other advisors, other professionals that say, oh, a trust solves everybody's problems. And a lot of times it can, it does have the tax advantages, it does provide privacy protection, and it does avoid probate, but it is not per se an affordable estate planning tool, and not every client needs one. So a lot of times, and this has happened, I've had potential clients that end up being clients come to me and say, well, I need a trust. And then when we sit down for the consultation, we're running through their assets and what their wishes are. It comes clear to me that they truly don't need a trust, and not that they won't benefit from it, but if they're on a more stringent budget and they're trying to address these matters, there are other means that would satisfy this client's ultimate wishes. So again, a trust is phenomenal. I do recommend it more often than not, but not every single person needs a trust for their estate plan. And I think another, and I guess final one, is probably the heavy reliance that a lot of people have on the durable power of attorney. And this document, I do encourage it when needed, but it is a very aggressive document that can be abused and can open the door to, exploitation, undue influence, financial exploitation, especially in elderly individuals. So if you are going to execute a power of attorney, understand what powers you are vesting in this person, because it is a very debilitating document if the trust is put in the wrong person. They can really abuse this document. So be wary, be confident, and be certain that this is a true document that you really want to enter into, because there are other documents that can be prepared that are not as abrasive if you don't truly need it right now.
Got it. Got it. I know that you have, you and I have spoken about specifically scenarios where people need to secure or plan for their digital assets. So how can you ensure, how can an individual ensure that digital assets such as online accounts and digital currencies, that they're adequately protected within their estate plan?
So again, this is definitely a topic that I think our society has really kind of started to pay more attention to, I'd say in the last 10 to 20 years. And as estate planners, now this is, a time where we have to pivot, adjust, and learn how to account for these new assets that not only our clients, but we ourselves have. So when I refer to digital assets, this is not just cryptocurrency. Digital assets includes obviously the cryptocurrency. This includes NFTs. This includes YouTube channels, websites and domain names, online social media accounts, email, any online account, any encrypted or unencrypted data that essentially could be found on the quote unquote, web or on a cloud-based platform. This is any kind of asset that is not per se tangible, and there are a lot of risks associated with owning these assets, especially, a great example is the cryptocurrency market. It's not centralized, it's not controlled. So the risk is so inherent when it comes to cyber attacks and hacking. And a lot of people don't truly understand how to protect and truly ensure that these assets are not at risk at some point or another. So I
Sure.
always like to make sure that my clients are aware of, at least a few tips. And, one and foremost is verify what assets you truly own. Confirm, do I truly own this cryptocurrency? Do I truly own this NFT? Do I truly own this domain? Verify these assets, go through them, make a list. And then, I always also like to recommend that, especially with cryptocurrency, there's, the key phrase that's basically your holy grail to accessing and understanding how to basically, show proof that you own those assets. And that password is, it's your only way to access anything. So I always recommend put that on an external drive. All of this, highly protected information, type it up or write it down or transfer everything and all this information to an external drive that's safe, protected, and that the only individuals that have access to it are yourself and then essentially the personal representative of your estate or the person that will be able to administer anything or access all of your information if you're no longer here. So making that list, making sure that you have all of that information readily accessible, phone passcodes, anything like that. It's so highly protected. There's so many laws around, this data encryption and all of this information that's out there on the web that if you don't plan for this and account for these assets in some way or another, it can be very costly and almost legally impossible to retrieve or access this information if you didn't leave it properly accounted for, and as a part of your estate plan.
Sure. Yeah, no, and the thing is, when your loved ones are going already through the emotional toll of having lost you, then they now have to try and figure out, you know, planning for that, right? Like the grieving part and planning for the death of someone, of losing someone, and then they also have to think about, okay, how do I get access to these things that are were so important to my loved one? So that's great information, and I really appreciate you sharing that info with us, Nicole. So we are getting to the fun part of our. Did you want to add something? By the way, I think I heard you saying
No,
something.
no, no, no,
No, no.
no.
Okay,
It's
okay.
just, yeah, all of this is important. Everybody needs to have something. Please.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to the fun part where we actually get to know you as a human, not just as the attorney, Nicole. So you haven't heard these questions before. We call it the lightning round. And the first question is, what is one hobby you have that most people do not know about?
Wow, one hobby that most people don't know. I don't know if I consider it a hobby. I guess you could. I mean, I love to cook. I like, any opportunity I can, find a good recipe or, make anything like interesting or fun, I'm gonna do it. I've made homemade pastelitos that are
Ooh,
a hit with my family. My husband's favorite is the lasagna. Actually, my dad just asked for it now for Father's Day as his dinner. Um, so like anything like that, I've made crab rangoons, I've made poke bowls, I've made arroz imperial. Like I'll do anything. Like all of these type of things, I'm always intrigued to make, and I find it fun. So I guess cooking. A lot of people wouldn't think, an attorney who's so busy has time to be throwing down in the kitchen.
I'm gonna make an official request for those pastelitos. I've never had homemade pastelitos. So if you could have one talent, what would that talent be?
Oh, a talent. Okay. Wow. Good one, good one. A talent, a talent. I guess I'd like to be able to sing. I can't sing. My husband
Love it.
makes fun of me. So if I could sing, I'd be able to prove him wrong and a lot of people, and maybe make a little bit more money on that. I don't know. I might be a little successful.
The singing attorney.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell us about the most spontaneous thing you've ever done.
Spontaneous. Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe not spontaneous, but funny enough, I planned my honeymoon in 48 hours. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, and we ended up in Europe. So how I don't even know like how that I feel like that time frame was such a blur. We had so many plans, so many things tabbed, saved, marked, and we were like in the cart, and then it came like 2 days before the wedding, and like nothing was done. And half of me was like, I give up, and then the other half was like, no, we are getting on that plane in 48 hours. Like, so
that
I
is so
planned an
awesome.
entire like Italy honeymoon in 48 hours. How I made it happen, I don't know. It was literally probably the craziest thing, but a phenomenal experience. And I recommend to anyone, don't be discouraged by the time frame on things.
That's awesome. That sounds awesome. What is your favorite sound?
My favorite sound.
Yeah.
Okay, funny enough, I love, you know, when I'm working or just around the house, I love ambiance. So, nature sounds, jazz music, classical music. I'm a very, ambiance type person. So like my TV typically, if it doesn't have, a rerun of something on in the background, I'll have, the waves or it'll be like jazz music or holiday music or something like that. I like sound stimulation as far as like background noise to some degree, or, the little waterfalls and things like that. So there's always some sort of sound around.
Love it. Love it. And last question, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Wow, best piece of advice I've ever received. Mm, Gotta think about that one. Because I've gotten some good advice. I've gotten some good advice, but I would say, I guess, live in the present and preserve like these special moments of kind of like stop, think, be present, be aware, and stop the rushing to get older, rushing to get to a new month, a new day, a new everything, because it'll get here. It'll eventually, arrive, and you'll look back and say, I didn't take that moment in enough, or I didn't, sit and like in that opportunity to bask in, that awareness of being in someone's presence or being in a particular location. You're going to end up looking back and missing that time. So I guess taking a moment and smelling the roses, like they like to say, I think is the best advice, that I think truly resonates with me. As I get older, and any life experience I have, I think that's by far the most meaningful, that I think has impacted me most.
So stop and smell the roses. I love it. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. How can people reach you?
So they can reach me directly at my email or phone. So my email is Nicole at sorlawplc.com, or they can call or text our office number at 305-773-2524. We also have an Instagram at sorlawplc, and our website is also sorlawplc.com. There's tons of ways. Just Google my name, look me up on the Florida bar, look up our website, and we're open to in-person consultations, Zoom and phone consultations. We do offer a free 30-minute consultation for anyone that wants to schedule one. So don't feel, pressured that you need to pay something up front to talk to us. We're always available. Our biggest goal is to help as many people as possible. So don't think that I can't afford it because I can't just even talk to an attorney. And one of the biggest things that I always like to tell people is that when you call our office, you're either getting myself or Maria, which is the other attorney. So there is no paralegal, there is no receptionist, there is no, other country picking up the phone call for you that doesn't speak English or Spanish. It's going to be an attorney that is on the other line waiting to help you.
That's awesome. And it's SOR Law, SOR, not SORE.
Yes.
There's no there's no soreness going on there.
Right. Yeah. It's S.
Awesome.
So I guess the initials of our names, the S, the O, and the R.
The R. SOR Law. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. And for our audience, we hope that you found value in all of this information. Please subscribe and you'll be getting all of these amazing attorneys and estate professionals sharing insights like this one. So thank you again, Nicole, for joining us. We loved having you and we look forward to doing this again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.